wonder how many people actually know my last name at this. Oh,
It sounds like the name of an eikaiwa.
I know, right? William English. Yeah.
William English, it sounds like. Hello and welcome to Garden Chats. We are here with William English. He's a preschool teacher at Mintleaf in one of the 3 to 6 year old rooms.
Yes, that's right.
Welcome, William.
Thank you for having me.
So you were new to the Reggio approach and everything like that when you started at Mintleaf a few years ago?
Yes, it was an idea I had not heard about before I started working here.
Can you tell us about your experiences teaching in Japan or back home, and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, my very first experience teaching was as a teacher's assistant, a TA, at university in Seattle, Washington. So I was studying physics, yeah, and so I started being a teacher's assistant for the undergraduate physics. But after that, I graduated from university. My friend had gone to Korea a year before. He graduated a year before me, and he went to Korea to teach English. And he said he was having a great time, he was able to save money, and I wasn't sure what to do after I graduated because it was very hard to find a job in 2008. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna try that. So I spent a year teaching in Korea, and after that I traveled for a little while, and I really had a good time. So I said, I've always wanted to go to Japan. Maybe I can teach English in Japan. Came here, taught at an eikaiwa for 7 years, and I had a son. And when I had a son, I realized I can't keep this work schedule. My eikaiwa work schedule was very long, and so I was looking for a change of employment, and I found this job through the director. He was a friend of mine at the time, and he said, hey, we have this new school opening. Would you like to work with us and be a teacher for preschool students? And I said, yeah, that would help me raising my son, and I mean, it's good experience as a father, but also I would love to teach kids in a setting like Reggio. When he explained to me the Reggio system, and I was very interested in it. It resonated with me.
Right. So you had a long career in eikaiwa.
Yes.
Pretty long compared to the average foreign English teacher. Because one thing I noticed is in your shorter lessons, like your after school lessons and some of the lessons we did on Zoom during the quarantine, you're a pretty polished eikaiwa teacher. You know how to prepare a lesson and teach task-based lessons pretty efficiently and in a way that the children enjoy. You decided to take a leap and change to the Reggio approach, which is in some ways very different.
Yeah, but I also feel that it's much better suited to effectively teaching children to acquire a language. The eikaiwa system is very based on rote learning and repetition, which is an old idea and has some effectiveness, but it's more appropriate to older students than younger students.
I agree. I think that to learn a language at some point you do have to sit down and memorize a large base of language and some rules. But the younger the child, the more active experience-based education is necessary for their learning, and the less effective sit-down drilling will be. They'll memorize exactly what you teach them, but to acquire natural language patterns, being exposed to natural language is a better approach, in my opinion, too.
Yeah.
What was your first impression of Reggio approach? Like, everybody hears Reggio or Reggio approach, and like I remember my first impression was that Reggio was like a person, like Montessori or something, and then it just started opening up from there, and I started to learn more about it. Like, what were your first kind of ideas?
Well, when I first heard about it, my first reaction was surprise, and then curiosity, because like I said, the idea of it resonated with how I felt young children should learn. But the surprise came from the idea that play-based and self-directed learning was a foundation for an educational approach, as opposed to like what we usually see with,
Right.
teacher-directed learning and
Right.
writing and listening and not really having a chance to play and explore.
And some people I've talked to make a false dichotomy between academic and play-based.
Yeah.
But really, if you look at a school like Mentally for Reggio School, we're encouraging teachers to study and learn education theory that's grounded in research, and there's quite a craft to it. There's room for academics here too. So, so it can be hard for people to figure out the lines between play and learning, and the lines between freedom and authority.
Yeah.
Those can be kind of hard. What were some of the challenges you had when you first started?
What you just said, getting used to the idea of less authority and more like allowing them to play and explore without trying to direct them too much. Or there's one other big thing about Reggio is process art versus product art. I was so used to the idea of, okay, well, this is what we're gonna make today, or this is what we're gonna do, and you would guide the kids towards making it look like the product,
Right.
rather than just exploring how to, use the glue or cut paper. So the process wasn't a focus of it. So I had to get used to that idea and stop focusing on, I want to make this, and start focusing on, let's use this material today, or let's try making paper mache this week and just see what happens with it.
Right, and in the country Japan, it's a majorly profound shift in the way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because Japan's known for very detailed craftsmanship and very orderly society that's based on a right way to do most things and a step-by-step techniques for how to do things. So most of the parents, most of the teachers, most of the children have a background in very strict product-based learning, where the process is predetermined and they're told they've done a good or bad job based on how closely their final artwork looks to the example.
One thing I noticed with my own child being in a Japanese hoikuen is that the child will draw something, and that's about it. They'll scribble a little bit, and then the teachers will make something beautiful out of it. And it's like, okay, so the teachers are very good at art, but I want to see more of my son exploring materials and making things.
I had my own son in a hoikuen too, and I can tell that there was an entire page he painted that was cut into a flower and then glued onto a place, and then like a photo of his face was in the middle. And it was a really nice and touching memory of his childhood, but as an educator myself and as a parent, I felt like I had no idea what his painting style was even like, or
what he was trying
or
to
if it was
paint.
even his.
Oh.
I mean, I trust that it was his, but like there was nothing original about it.
And I feel a little bad for the teachers too, because they have to do a lot of work to produce that.
Yeah,
That's
totally
very hard for them. So.
And if you imagine, having a 9-hour preschool day, and every hour you shift to a different product-based activity, that's a lot of planning. I mean, we do a lot of planning too, but it's a lot of preparation.
Yes.
A lot of cutting small pieces, a lot of sorting certain numbers of materials for each child.
When really that would be a good exercise for the child to do.
Absolutely.
Right? Sorting those things out.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what it looks like at the end. What matters is that the child has learned, and we can then document how they learned, and that's what matters. And so when you go into the classrooms, you'll see photographs of the children, you'll see their work with captions on it, and that's a way that we can show what the children are learning. And being that Reggio approach schools are a very educationally focused program, that is what's really important to us, is the learning process. That's a very common challenge, and it's a very big challenge for many people. Most people have grown up in very rigid and strict academic settings. So how have you changed as a teacher and or as a father in your approach over the past time you've been at Mint Leaf?
One of the big changes came from one of the challenges, actually. One of the challenges, another one, was planning activities, and when the children started to maybe go one way or the other, instead of letting them go one way, I would try and bring them back to what I had planned.
Right.
So instead of adapting to what they were interested in, I would try and steer them back to what I had planned, because I wasn't comfortable with spontaneity yet.
Right.
But now I'm still struggling with it, but I think I'm better at allowing the kids to take control and, like I said before, self-direct to an extent. And when I notice things start to change, their interests start to change, I say, okay, let's explore that, or please tell me more about that, or whatever. And as a parent, I let my son focus on what he's interested in. Right now it's motorcycles, so we just learn all about motorcycles. If he's not interested in doing ABCs, that's fine. We'll look at motorcycles. I'll say, this is an SV650R or whatever.
There's some literacy right there.
So, I mean, I'm getting better at finding ways to make whatever they're interested in educational. So I think that's
I found myself that working in the Reggio approach helped me a lot in becoming a parent and a father. It helped me, especially with the power struggles and the more challenging times, understanding that the child was trying to communicate something and that maybe their idea was equally valid to mine, and that maybe I should just let them do what they want to do. So you mentioned process art. Any of the activities, literacy, art, science, we encourage teachers to create activities that do not have a predetermined learning outcome. So you mentioned you worked with physics a little bit too, right? How was that in terms of like predetermined outcomes, or how much of it is just like, let's just blow stuff up and
it's
what happens?
Pretty predetermined. You're studying how things actually work, so you're given a situation and you determine what happens at the end of it based on math. So it's all pretty straightforward, not open-ended.
Right, and so, but you use some of your physics in the class with the children.
Like I mean,
this rubber bands on mechanical trains.
The scientific ideas can definitely lead to some really fun activities. I mean, I didn't do it with the preschool kids yet, but sinking and floating and talking, how that works, what things sink. Take a ball of clay and you throw it in the water, it sinks. But if you shape it into a hollow kind of box, then it floats, and kids are like, what?
Right, and then they can maybe find some other things that they can experiment with that. And the key is to teach that in a way where you're getting them to kind of guess what will happen. Which is like the scientific process. So physics, when you're learning physics, a lot of it is predetermined. But when you're doing physics, when you're exploring it, then you don't know what's going to happen sometimes. Right.
You have an idea, but you got to find out.
Well, that's what happens in real life in science. Is there's a problem, and then you use your understanding of science or engineering to try to fix that problem, right? So, and we're doing that with the children on a much smaller and age-appropriate level. One other change that I've observed in your classroom is when I first met you and first saw your classroom, I noticed a lot of ABC charts, some
weather and
things up on the window. And one thing that I was impressed by was you asked me what the walls should look like, and then you asked me like, oh, should I take all this stuff down? And then what I was impressed by was the next time I saw your classroom, it was all gone. So what was that like, decorating and preparing a room, and then to understand and accept that that you basically had to change it?
I wasn't bothered by it. I guess I'm not uncomfortable with failure. There's always a positive side to changing, like taking those ABCs down, for example, then I could use them for other activities, like maybe karuta or something like that, a game, or the kids could do something with them,
Right.
like physically interact with them. Because if they're just on the window, all you can do is look at it.
Everybody starts from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But nobody really knows kind of where to start until you start getting some guidance. In some places, in some schools, like probably your last Eikaiwa, having an ABC chart on the wall is considered a very good and appropriate thing. And that probably works for them. You know, so it's not exactly a mistake, but trying things and then finding out how they fit into the program or how they don't fit into the program.
One other thing, it's not on the wall exactly,
Right.
but we have a puppet stand
Right.
next to the dramatic play area, and the children last week made their own puppets out of paper bags, and we were able to put all those puppets onto the puppet stand. And so
That
yeah,
was
now
pretty
there's
cool.
some student-made puppets, as part of the toys, I guess.
It's part of the
available
environment,
environment,
and it's part of the kind of reflecting their own learning back at themselves.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they made the
exactly, yeah.
puppets, and now they're on display in the room, and they're on display in a functional way because they can take the puppets off of the rack and use them.
Hey guys, my name is Dylan. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see the full exclusive versions of all of our videos, check the link in the description and sign up for full access to our Mint Leaf method. It's an amazing way to connect with our Mint Leaf community and learn a lot about both teaching and parenting techniques as well. Hit the like and subscribe button for us if you would, it really helps us out. Can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Peace.